Hello, my name is Rowan. Today I'm going to read you Dragon Academy Rebirth, Clara by The Child of Twilight. This is a prequel about a young trainee who didn't want the responsibility of being a dragon. So without further ado, let's begin. Clara? Clara, come back! I ran away from my friends, not daring to look back. Me, a dragon? I was just crazy. I didn't want to be a dragon. I couldn't be a dragon. I could still hear Anne and Theo running after me, but I didn't once stop. I silently thanked whatever gods might have been listening for my skill in running under small confines. If Anne and Theo transformed, I was sure I'd never have gotten away. Thinking on it, though, things had gotten tough. I could have transformed too. That wasn't exactly the first thing on my mind. All I could do was run. I ran down the steps, nearly tripping several times, and I ran through the back door. It was here that I stopped, the weight of what I was doing finally catching up to me. My thoughts were going at breakneck speed. The dragons were protectors of the Empire. Whether I wanted to or not, I now had an obligation to the citizens. But I also wanted to just get away from it all. Away from the responsibility, the scrutiny, the reputation. I didn't want it. I only entertained these thoughts for a moment, though. Seconds later, I heard Anne and Theo thundering down the steps behind me, so I'd made my decision in that moment. I bolted off into the trees on my right, knowing that I could lose them between the buildings. I won't deny that I feel guilty. I won't deny that multiple times I considered going back and apologizing. I won't deny that I quickly shot these thoughts down right after they entered my head. I told myself that being a dragon was not the life for me, and that I needed to stay away from my old friends. There are some days I wish I hadn't run away. There are some days I wish I'd let my thoughts get the better of me. Perhaps if I'd known it would be the last time I got to see my friends alive, I would have turned back. It's 20 years too late for those thoughts, though. The murder occurred only hours after I ran. After I lost Anne and Theo among the abandoned buildings, I took to wandering the surrounding forests. Mostly I was scavenging for food, as I hadn't eaten a meal since the night before. Dusk had fallen by the time I finally found something to eat. A wild raspberry bush was growing in a clearing, and I wasted absolutely no time picking off all the berries I could. They were the sweetest berries I'd ever had, though that may have been due to my hunger. It was probably also because of my hunger that I didn't notice the other person in the clearing until I was face to face with them. Oh! I jumped back, startled. The stranger fell back in fright, and I felt bad for jumping him. I didn't see you. What are you doing so far from the capital? The stranger stood up, dusting his pants off. It's no problem. To answer your question, I like to come out here from time to time. I'm not very fond of the capital air either, so this is a nice respite. Tell me about it, I laughed, picking off another berry and eating it. So what's your name? It's Celia's. He smiled at me as he popped a berry into his mouth. Yours? Clara. It's nice to meet you, Elias. Likewise, Clara. Say, do you know the dragons? I froze at this question. How do you mean? I feel like I recognize you from somewhere. I like to keep up with what the dragons are doing whenever possible, and I've noticed lately that there's a person that's always with them. That wouldn't happen to be you, would it? Yes, it is, actually, I said, coughing. I'd accidentally inhaled a part of the berry, and it tickled the back of my throat almost painfully. I coughed again. Unfortunately, I don't think I'll be seeing him again. Why not? Did something happen? Elias frowned at me as he sat near the bush. I picked a handful of berries and joined him. Yes, I'd rather not talk about it. I'm sorry to hear that. He leaned back, looking up through the opening in the canopy at the stars above. He sat like that for a little bit, not saying anything. I didn't say anything either. Are you the third dragon? He asked suddenly. I choked on the berry I was eating again, coughing in an attempt to dislodge it. Helios watched me, a cold look in his eyes that hadn't been there before. It scared me. I'm not, I cried, standing up. He sat up to look at me. There's no way I could ever be a dragon. That sounds more like self-denial than the truth, he said coldly. Are you or aren't you? I am, I began, but I don't want to be. Simple as that, Helios said, leaning back again. The cold expression was gone. That was all you had to say, Clara. You seem like a very honest person. Well, I try to be. I feel it's important to be honest these days, I admitted. Among people like me, right? I didn't know what to say to the sudden remark. Elias stood up now, and for the first time, I noticed that he was taller and larger than me. The look in his eyes was back, and I took a step back without thinking. I wasn't lying when I said I don't like the capital air. That's not the reason I don't like to be there, though. It's because of everyone thinking that people like me, people like this. He smiled at me, and for an instant I saw a flash of pure darkness where he was standing. The next moment he was back to normal, and his smile grew. Violent and dangerous. They may be right about the latter, but the former? We're a peaceful people by nature. The only reason we ever started harming people was because we were harmed first. And then there are people like you who think exactly that. You think you're better than the rest of us. Such a saint just because you're a dragon. Just because you're of the light. Well, I have some news for you, Clara. There's an uprising. The shadows are spreading. Light getting snuffed out. That light starts with the dragons. Our link to the dragons starts with you. I stood there, frozen. I don't think I could have changed my fate even if I'd tried. Elias was taller than me, likely much faster, and I could tell he had the intent to kill. I was paralyzed with fear. I almost felt like I was watching this from somewhere high in the trees. I couldn't even feel it as Elias picked a large raspberry from the bush, sliding it in between my numb lips. He put his hands around my neck then, slowly increasing the pressure until I could no longer draw breath. It made my head dizzy, and I tried to step back. All I succeeded in doing was falling to the ground. Elias was right there, and within moments his grip was back, this time pinning me underneath him. Everything looked like it was spinning, and my head was pounding. The first thing to disappear were the stars. Following soon behind were the leaves and the trees themselves. The last thing to disappear was Elias's cruel smile. Anne and Theo found my body a week later, though I'll spare you the details of my state. I'm at rest, relatively at least, and my only regret is that I never got the chance to apologize to my friends. They're much older now. Perhaps this'll get to them one day. It would be nice, I think, for them to know what happened. We upload a new story every